It was a breakup with a girlfriend that landed me back at my parents' house at age 28. Our split hadn't been one of those overdramatic ones where we screamed and cursed each other's names, then I left with a slam of the door and a "go to hell, bitch." I'd been through a couple breakups before, one of which ended with my ex saying, "Go fuck yourself, you stupid fuck." That was easy to get over. You don't stay up late at night hoping the woman who called you a stupid fuck comes back. In fact, none of my previous relationships ever felt that serious. But I had been with this girl for 3 years, and I was sure that we were right for each other, and had thought we would marry. When she decided to call it quits, it wasn't because of anything specific. Something that had been there before was now missing, and neither of us could figure out what. Our relationship just wasn't working. So when I moved into my parents' house, I was really down. I don't generally wear my emotions on my sleeve, but my dad could tell I was upset. Sometimes life leaves a $100 bill on your dresser, and you don't realize until later it's because it fucked you, he said, putting his hand on my shoulder while I was eating breakfast one morning, about a week after I'd moved back home. "It's okay. You don't have to try to cheer me up," I replied. "Well, shit, I know that," he said. "But I figured I had to say something. Otherwise, just grabbing the cereal from you and leaving might seem a little callous." He chuckled, hoping to lighten the mood. The next day I woke up around 6:30 in the morning. Unable to get back to sleep, I groggily sauntered out into the living room in my boxer shorts. My dad was sitting at the dining room table, eating grape nuts, reading the paper. "When'd you wake up?" I asked. "Oh, I don't know. 5, maybe. Like usual." "Jesus, that's early. Why do you wake up so early?" I said. "Always have." "But why? You're retired now. It makes no sense. Son, am I being interrogated here? I'm an early riser. What the fuck do you want from me?" he said before resuming reading the paper. After a few moments, he put the paper down. "Why are you up so early?" I told him I had woken up and couldn't get back to sleep. He got up from his seat, walked into the kitchen, and poured me a cup of coffee. "You want that bullshit you like in your coffee?" he asked, holding a mug filled with the dark black liquid. "Creamer?" "Yes, I want creamer." He set my coffee down on the table and went back to reading his paper. I poured myself a bowl of cereal, and we sat in silence for a few minutes. My mind was quickly consumed with thoughts of my girlfriend and all the good times we had had. Like one of those cheesy montages in 80s movies when the angry protagonist envisions himself and his ex holding hands on the beach, feeding a small puppy, getting into some kind of zany wrestling match with whipped cream. I interrupted my cliché memories by saying aloud, "Ugh, I'm feeling pretty low about this whole thing." "You just gotta try to put it out of your head," he said, folding his paper halfway down to look at me. "I know, it's just hard. I mean, I still have stuff at her place. What am I gonna do about that? I still have a TV," I said. "Fuck the TV. Leave the TV. Cut your ties." "It's a $1,500 TV, I insisted. "Go get that fucking TV." I wasn't sure what I was hoping to accomplish by having this conversation, but it wasn't making me feel better. So I went to take a shower, got dressed, and began working on my latest Maxim.com piece, which was, ironically, a flowchart detailing the differences between the male and female brain during an argument. I worked straight until 12:30 when my dad came into the living room. He had his fanny pack on, which indicated he was ready to go somewhere. "I'm buying you lunch. Put your flip-flops on, let's go." I dragged myself off the couch, followed him outside, hopped in his car, and we headed down the hill to my favorite lunch spot, an Italian place near our house called Pizza Nova. We got a table outside in the sun that overlooked dozens of white clusters of sailboats and motorboats in the San Diego harbor. The waitress brought us a basket of garlic rolls and a pair of iced teas. My dad took a sip of his and looked up at me. "You don't know shit about me." Okay, I said. "About my life. You don't know shit about it. Because I don't tell anybody." It wasn't until he said it that I realized he was right. Sure, I knew the rough outline of my dad's biography. He grew up on a small farm in Kentucky, served in Vietnam, had 2 sons with his first wife, who passed away from cancer shortly after having my brother Evan, married my mother 9 years later, and had me. He spent his career doing cancer research as a doctor of nuclear medicine. But that was it. Now that I was thinking about it, I realized he was probably the most private person I knew. When I was in my early 20s, I was head over heels for this woman. She was gorgeous, just a real beauty and full of life, he said between bites of garlic roll. Most of us like to assume, or wish, that our parents only had sex with each other, and only the necessary number of times it took to produce us and our siblings. So it was strange to hear my dad talk so highly about a woman other than my mother. He never had before, and I was intrigued. So me and her, we dated for a while. A long while. Then one day we got to talking, and I told her how much I loved her. And she looked at me and told me, "I don't love you. I never will." "I'll have a sausage and pepperoni pizza with the salad," he said, turning to the waitress, who had been awkwardly standing next to our table waiting for my dad to finish his story so he could take our order. I placed my order, and the waitress left. "So what'd you do?" I asked. I told her I thought I could change that. Maybe she didn't love me right now, but she would eventually. What'd she say? She said okay, and we stayed together, and we fought. We fought a lot. And then I realized I had made a big mistake. She had given me her youth, and it was gone, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And then she got sick, and she was dying, he said, taking a deep breath, thinking for a moment, as if he were replaying something in his mind he hadn't thought of in a long time. So I made good with her, and I stuck by her. And then she died. And I felt horrible, because I felt like here was this woman who didn't want to be with me. She told me that, and I ignored it. And she was spending the end of her life with someone she didn't love, and now she was gone. And part of me felt relieved that I was freed out of this relationship, and that made me feel so terrible I couldn't deal with it. My dad sat back in his wicker chair for a few quiet moments. The waitress arrived with our food, and he picked at his salad before looking up at me. People are always trying to tell you how they feel. Some of them say it outright, and some of them, they tell you with their actions. And you have to listen. I don't know what will happen with you and your lady friend, and I think she's a nice person, and I hope you get what you want. But do me a favor. Listen, and don't ignore what you hear.